Hello everyone, and welcome to Meg's How To Videos. For today, we're going to be doing a double product review on the Kaiweets KWS 113 and 114 wire strippers. Now, before I go and test out these wire strippers, I wanted to let you know that this is a non-paid sponsored video. These products were sent to me free of charge to do a true, honest review. So that is what I'm going to do. However, if you're interested in getting your hands on either one of these wire strippers, you can find the product link in the description below. That, or you can wait to the end of this video to find out how you could potentially get either one of these wire strippers for free. But on that note, let's go test them out. All right, so for us to test out these wire strippers, I have salvaged a variety of different types as well as different gauge wires that we can use to cut and strip using these wire strippers. Before I open these things up, I'm going to show you the specs on the back of each package. So that is for the 113 model, and then the 114 model right there. All right, so we're going to begin with the 113. Open her up. First impressions, definitely has got a nice spring tension to it. See, it does have a little blade to cut the wire down there at the end. So this one looks like it's rated for 8 to 18 gauge, or 1 to 3.2 millimeter for the solid copper wire. Since this wire stripper is rated between 8 to 18 gauge wire, we're going to start with the smallest being 18. So I'm going to line that up with the 18 hole, and we're going to pull it apart. Now, right away I noticed that there are some cut wires. So not too impressed with the 18. Now we're going to test out the cutter. And look at that, clean cut. All right, next we are going to go to 14 gauge wire. Gonna line it up in the 14 hole, and look at that, clean. There are no broken wires. All right, again, test out the cutters, and no problem. All right, next we're gonna be testing out 12 gauge wire. So line it up with the 12 gauge hole right there. Now let's do a little bit further in, and there we go. And pop. And it's looking good. No cut wires. Cool. Time to cut it. Now, sadly I don't have any 8 gauge wire, so 10 gauge is the largest I currently have that is rated for these wire strippers. So we're gonna line this up in the 10 spot, and there we go. No problems. Let's snip off a little bit more. Let's try again. Again, no problems. Cutting that, no cut wires. It's all good. All right, test out the cutters again. And like butter, no problem. This test, when you use solid copper wire, looks like she'll fit in the 12. All right, there we go. Cut it. Looks pretty good. Let's see if the cutters can snip that off. No problem. All right, so this time we're going to now test the 114 model. So we'll slide this one out. Again, it's got decent spring tension to it. It's got a nice little set of cutting blades down there. This time it's actually 2 different blades, so it works like a scissors. And yeah, it looks like it just grabs and pulls. So let's go test this thing out. All right, so again, to make note, this thing will cut down to 28 gauge. All right, 28 to 12. However, the smallest gauge I currently have is 22. So that's where we're going to begin our tests. With the strip. I don't see any cut wires. Boop. Nice. All right. 20 gauge. I don't see any wires cut. $18 gauge. All good. Clean cut. 14 gauge. Again, that was a nice clean cut. I don't see any broken wires. Now it's time to test the 12 gauge wire. So here I'm going to slide her in. Look at that. Easy. I don't see anything wrong with any of the wires. There's no damage. None of them have cut short. And then time to shear it off. Smooth. All right, with this one, we're gonna test out the 10 gauge, see how well this thing can cut. All righty. So again, I'm gonna line it up in there. It will cut 10. For fun, will it strip 10? And it does. Look at that. It's a little tough, but it will do it. All right, again, we tested on the solid copper wire on these wire strippers. So we're gonna line them up right there. Well, it did it. Did not want to do it, did not like doing it, but it did it. All right, next let's see if it'll cut it. All right, cutters had no issues, but this was definitely struggling on this. Try loosening it up a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like solid copper wire. So the nice thing about this one, since it doesn't have like the individual holes that you have to put the wires in, you can strip multiple wires at the same time. So let's cut that off and then put that in there. And look at that, 2 wires at the same time. All right, so last test, I got this wire here from electrical reel, and we're going to clean her up. So I'm going to see if will this thing cut it. Nope, it's too fat. But let's see if I score it. Let's see, does that work? Nope. So these ones have wide enough cutters. There you go, look at that. Well, now that we're all done testing out these wire strippers, it's time for my favorite part of the review video, and that is the actual review. So to begin, I'm going to review the 113 series. Usually I'd go over rating on a 1 to 5 scale over 4 different categories, but to make things less complicated and confusing between the 2 wire strippers, I'm just going to compare, contrast with the pros and cons, and let you know if it's worth your money or not. So again, starting out with the 113 series, this one has the capability of stripping wires between the gauges of 18 to 8. Sadly, I didn't have any 8 gauge wire to be able to test this thing out on, but if it's anything like the rest of the ones we tested, this thing should have no problem stripping and cutting that wire. Again, this thing's got a pretty durable blade on it, so I don't think it'll have any issues cutting it. It's got really nice rubber handles, and for the rest of the tool, it's made out of metal. 18 to 8 is definitely within that spectrum that most people will work with. So this is a pretty handy tool. It's able to strip that solid copper wire versus what the other one wasn't able to. So that's a nice thing if you're working on, house electrical and stuff like that. What are some of the cons that this thing has? Well, one, it does have this little wire gauge, or I should say like length gauge, to allow you to be able to strip all your wires at the same length. The only problem is that this thing is very flimsy. It does not have a ruler on it, and it's held in by a Phillips head screw. What I would do to upgrade this thing is I would swap out that screw with a little turn knob so you can tighten it by hand very easily. The next thing that you could potentially have issues with is the wide handle base. All right, 1, you got small hands, it's going to be a little hard to work with. 2, if you're in a very tight pinch area, that could end up being an issue as well. Lastly is that top blade. You see, the clearance on it is very iffy. Every so often, the top one will pop out of socket and it'll sort of get locked in place. So you gotta squeeze the handle and you gotta sort of push it in to have it go back up. Doesn't happen all the time, but every so often I notice on this one it does. So I would fix the clearance on that top blade. Currently online it runs for roughly about $20. Is it worth that? Yeah. I could see spending 20 bucks on this thing. So because of that, I say if you're on a budget and you need to have a affordable tool that will last for a while and get the job done, this would do it. So next one is the 114 series. Now, this thing's not fully metal. Half, or I should say over half of it looks to be plastic. The nice thing about this is that it's very lightweight, fits in your hand pretty well, and the overall grip, or I should say, for the handle, it's not that far apart, so you're able to get it in some tighter areas. Another pro for this thing is that the jaw is elongated, so you're able to get into little nooks and crannies a little easier to strip the wires if need be. Again, you can cut multiple wires on this instead of one at a time. However, this thing does not really do well, or I couldn't get to really work with the solid copper wire. So make note of that. Again, this thing actually has the ruler on the side in inches and in millimeters. So that's pretty nice. The cutter actually does fairly well. The only thing is that it doesn't cut up to that very high of gauge wire. They don't really open up much, so you can't really cut too many things in that. But it will cut the solid copper wire. Cons. Well, depending on the orientation of where you need to get into things, again, this thing could end up being a little bit of a hassle because of how bulky the head is. You're only able to strip up to 12 gauge wire. However, as a bonus thing, we did test this out on 10 gauge, and it does do that. But overall, I think it's fairly good. Currently, this thing runs for roughly about $10 online. Do I think it's worth the $10? Totally. In fact, it's funny because before they sent me this one, I ended up ordering a different brand because that was the first time I had ever seen one of these. Thought it was so cool. That cost me $30. So $10, totally worth it. On that note, I definitely say both are pretty good tools. Get them. You're able to spend a little bit more. I'd spend a little bit extra on this and get a higher grade, but these ones, totally get a pair of these in your arsenal. But yeah, with that note, I did say that if you are interested in getting a pair of these for free, I will be doing a giveaway. All right, I will personally order one of each one of these and give one away to a subscriber. All right, all you need to do is like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment of which one you would prefer out of these two. Once I reach 1,000 views on this video, I will then send out a 113 model, and then when I reach 2,000 views, I will then send out the 114 to 1 to 2 different lucky winners. So if you're interested, please like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment below. But with that said, God bless and good luck.